Minion in. Queue times in Bless Unleashed are super long. Invasions are underpopulated. Red Basin outside of core times? Forget about it. Is Bless Unleashed dead? Let's talk about it.
Come for the game, stay for the commentary.
Ain't nothing but a seat then, baby.
When Bless Unleashed was released, we were in the worst part of a pandemic. Everyone was home social distancing, and a new free-to-play MMO was exactly what we needed. So when we started playing Bless Unleashed, it was jam-packed. You couldn't take 2 steps without running into another player. It was a bit much. We needed 4 channels on Xbox Fizera, and they added a second North American server to handle all the new incoming people. Dungeon queues were short, Red Basin was popping back to back. So what happened? Well, people started going back to work, schools opened up for one thing, and any new multiplayer game is jam-packed at first, then the honeymoon phase ends and the community stabilizes. What we had before was overcrowding. What we have now is normal. Bless Unleashed has a good-sized, healthy numbered, stable community. If you're out there shouting the game is dead, you're being a drama queen. Stop being ridiculous for attention, and I do remove those comments from the subreddit. But I get why people might think that. The game is not underpopulated, the game is not dead. The game has design issues. Bless Unleashed was rushed to cater to the huge amounts of people, so a lot of its design was intended for those numbers. I did a whole video on why PvP queues are so long and what devs could do to improve that, and you can see that by clicking this card. Here's why dungeon queues take so long. The amount of dungeons we're able to run daily is limited by the number of chest keys we have. And we may have designated North American servers, but people from all over the world play on those, in so many time zones, so the game is active 24/7. And dungeon runs are spread out through that time. I'm in Germany, and a lot of other people from the European servers have started over on North America because their servers felt underpopulated. So there isn't a kind of rush hour where it's best to find dungeon groups. People are not saving up their chest keys for prime time. On top of that, people need different dungeons for different things. You can only queue for 1 dungeon at a time. I know people who queue for a dungeon for 2 minutes, leave that queue, select a different dungeon, try again, rinse and repeat. You kinda have to keep trying different dungeons until you find one other people are queuing for at the same time. It's a gamble, because Bless Unleashed has a major flaw. No multi-queues. As long as we can't select multiple dungeons and queue for all of those at the same time, we're going to have a hard time connecting with each other. It's a multiplayer game, connection should be easy. Even better, how about just a random queue option? Often we don't particularly care which dungeon we do, we just want to run any dungeon. That's a lot of us, and we're all queued for different things and aren't getting anywhere. A random dungeon option would make it so much easier to get a group. An algorithm would just put us in whichever group needed someone. So much better. Why don't we have that? At the very least, multi-queues. And that's not a this game could use this feature suggestion. Bless Unleashed absolutely needs multi-queues. Instead of removing channels to make the place feel less populated, how about making group activities more accessible? What we also need is for chest keys to just be done away with. When your players are already struggling to find other people to run dungeons with, a feature the sole purpose of which is to make people run dungeons less isn't just counterproductive, it's damaging. I know you want the economy in the market to be used, and I did a whole video on how that is how you get drops in this game. Click on this card to see that. But if you allow people who want to doggedly run one dungeon over and over and over again until they get the exact drop that they want, then getting a pickup group is so much more likely. On a side note, you do need to do away with dungeon kicks. There's a little elitism and a little toxicity going on in there, which makes running pugs not very desirable. You might get kicked for no good reason. So implement an automated system. If someone goes idle for 5 minutes, boot them automatically, but don't give people the option to kick someone just because they're a ranger without mark or a zerk without defense down, or because the group in there wants you out to make room for a guildie. They didn't queue with that guildie, fuck those guys. Which segues me not neatly into invasions. Everyone pretty much knows to do invasions on channel 1, so the number of channels a server has is completely arbitrary. Having less channels just means invasions take longer to trigger, and that makes the game feel emptier, not fuller. Tristeza invasions feel it the most. Killing Cyclops 6 times wasn't a big deal when there were 4 of them. With 2 channels, it's just a lot of standing there and waiting around. Respawn time for Cyclops is 28 minutes. Starting that invasion is so boring. You know what else is boring? Triggering an invasion when you're not sure what the trigger is. I can't remember the last time I've seen the Timeless Jungle invasion because we don't know exactly what triggers it. It's probably the elite fish people, but really the rule is kill everything and hope you get lucky. It's mind-numbingly boring. It takes forever. It's so damn grindy. It would really help if we could see our progress, or if we're even making any. So many people just don't even bother trying anymore. Let that sink in for a second, devs. People don't bother trying anymore. That should never happen. What the game also doesn't really consider is that people are back at work and school now. On top of that, with so many people playing outside of their region, it's just not possible to make it to invasions very much. We never know when invasions are going to happen. Just because the quest is available doesn't mean it's going to be triggered soon. Rudis Road is a nightmare to make it to. You have to complete the Chaos in the Mountains Crusade 3 times to trigger that one. When the quest is available, it still may be like 12 hours before the invasion actually starts. You have to be lucky enough to be on at the right time. It's completely unreliable. There's no getting around it. We need a trigger progress display. When an invasion quest is available, we should be able to look at it on the map or in our quest tracker if we're close enough to see how many of what things we still need to do to start that particular invasion. I don't get the secrecy. It's hurting the game. Consider this. When you pay for the Premium Bless Pass and you don't get the mount at the end of the list, you've wasted your money. Because let's be honest, mounts and cosmetics is why we get the Bless Pass in the first place. So the majority of the people who actually buy the Bless Pass are the people who have the ability to play all day, make it worth it. You need to complete a certain number of specific invasions to get those rewards, and right now, the only reliable way to do all of the required invasions is to be on 8 to 10 hours a day and wait. Quarantine is over. Ain't nobody got time for that. Honestly, triggers should be a thing of the past. Completely. Invasions should happen at a very specific time. Rudis Road starts at 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. every day, whether people are there or not. People who don't have all day to sit there and wait for content to happen can schedule their game time around invasions they need. Buying the Bless Pass feels a little less hopeless that way, which means more sales. And when people feel like they don't have to force themselves to be in game when they have other things to do, the game is more fun. Nobody likes a game that feels like an obligation for very long. And as long as we're having to sit there and wait for things we need to happen, it feels like an obligation. And that is taking the fun out of it. My time is limited and I'm trying hard, but I'm missing a bunch of invasions. If I don't get this duck mount, which is the only reason I bought the Bless Pass in the first place, I'm never buying another Bless Pass. It's just not worth it if you don't have hours per day to invest. Spending a little extra money on the Premium Bless Pass should enhance my game experience, not put me under additional pressure. You just need to make cooperative content more accessible. Do not make us feel like we're struggling to find people to do things with. The people are there. The game is not dead. The game mechanics just don't support group play very well, and they need an overhaul. This stuff needs to be a lot less random and a lot more reliable. If you agree, share this video on Twitter, tag Bless Unleashed and Round 8 Studio. They listen to their community, but it's up to us to make ourselves heard. Now go be freaking heroes. Minion out.